Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Shannon. Thanks for joining me today. I thought I would share a few of my favorite parenting books and resources with you. Not everything that I'm sharing is a book. A couple of things are on audio and they're not necessarily books, more like kind of like a podcast, I guess. So I'm going to just show you my favorite things that I've read. I'm sure there are a lot more books out there that are great. These are just ones that I have read and found helpful, so I thought I would share them with you. So I'm going to start with the first thing is not a book. It is actually an audio series. There are several of them, and I don't have the one on parenting in physical form. We bought it on an MP3 that we could download, so it's just on our computer. But it is part of this series, which is a Drive-By Marriage. It's by Todd Friel. He's on all of them. So Drive-By Marriage has Todd Friel and Rick Thomas. And then they've got Drive-By Pneumatology. They've got Drive-By Biblical Counseling 1 and 2. This is number 2. They have Drive-By Parenting. They have Drive-By Church History. They have Drive-By Theology. All sorts of really good teaching that make it easy to listen to. These are short, little, quick, 15 to 20 minute long clips that you listen to, and they're made to be listened to while you're driving to work or, driving to the grocery store or whatever. So that is my first recommendation, is Drive-By Parenting. This book I just finished. This is a book by Martha Peace and Stuart Scott. It's called The Faithful Parent. The foreword is by Ted Tripp, and it was an excellent book, really good. Just talking about the importance of being faithful in your parenting. So it was really good. Another book that I read, I would like to read it again because I haven't read it for a little while, is by Gloria Furman. It's called Treasuring Christ When Your Hands Are Full. And it's an excellent book that helps to focus on Christ whenever you're busy with lots of little ones and you don't have a lot of time and your time is limited. So this is another good option. All right, another book that I've read, I think I've read it almost twice now. It's called Pitching a Fit, and it is by Israel and Brooke Wayne, Overcoming Angry and Stressed Out Parenting. This is helpful, very practical. It's not a very thick book, and it's a quick read. So this one, if you're looking for something that's quick, that can help with anger issues in you, not necessarily your child, this is a great one to look for. Alright, one that is great for you as a parent and to help you understand your child's heart if they struggle with anger and if you struggle with anger, is called The Heart of Anger. It's by Lou Priolo, and the foreword is by John MacArthur. This was so convicting to me. I read it several years ago. I should read it again. Because I have new kids now who deal with anger, but because of this book, I was able to help my first son to overcome a lot of that anger, and I know how to respond to him better when he's struggling with anger. And so it's so helpful in that, just has practical steps, practical pages when your kids are older and they can write. It gives questions for them to think about, for you to ask them, discuss with them. Lots of practical stuff in here, and yeah, it was just very convicting for me also when I'm angry or getting angry. I can ask myself the same question. So this was a really, really good book. Okay, another one that I just read that is very helpful and lots of practical advice is Don't Make Me Count to 3 by Ginger Hubbard. A Mom's Look at Heart-Oriented Discipline. This book has a lot of practical things in it that are helpful to do in the situation when you are caught up and you might be angry or frustrated with your child. because they are, again, being disobedient or hitting their sister or whatever it might be, or you're just worn out and you're tired of disciplining because you've been doing it all day long. This book has very practical things to go through, so you can open it up, read the steps to take in that situation, and to be able to calmly and in a Christ-honoring way discipline your child. So Ginger also makes, let me grab it really quick. All right, this little calendar here, it looks like a calendar. It's not necessarily a calendar. I received this from my friend and my pastor's wife several years ago. Actually, it was not too long after we had met. I had a, let's see, I would have had a newborn and a 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old, and a 5.5-year-old, and then like a 8-year-old or something. So I was busy. I didn't know then how much busier I was going to get because right now we have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 14-year-old. So I still have lots of little people, but she gave this to me as something that I could use in those times when I was struggling to discipline correctly. If I was trying to do it out of anger, it is a practical thing that you can grab. You can sit down and you open it up. It's called Wise Words for Mom. It's by Ginger Hubbard. It has a little bit of information here about disciplining. And then it talks about wise words for mom. So on this side, it's got the child's behavior. So you look up and you find the behavior that you're dealing with. The next is heart-probing questions. So you can go through and ask your child these questions word for word. I have done it a bazillion times. I still do it sometimes. I have to get this out to remind myself. Heart-probing questions. Reproof, put off. So if we are aggravating and stirring up strife, which is something I ask my kids often, is this promoting peace? Are you stirring up strife? That's the first question. I have to ask that question probably on a daily basis, if not more than that. Then strife is the first thing you put off, and it gives a Bible verse here. One of the 7 things God hates is one who stirs up trouble among his brothers, Proverbs 6:19. Something to put on is peacemaking. God gives joy to those who promote peace, Proverbs 12:20. So we look up those 2 verses, we discuss those, and talk about them. And then the last thing here is some additional verses that deal with the problem that's going on in the heart of the child, so that you can use God's word, allow him to do the work in your child's heart by taking your child to scripture and discussing it with them, applying it to their situation and how they're feeling. So this is very, very helpful. It's like $5, a cheap little thing. Makes a really great gift for a mom who's struggling, for a new mom, for an old mom who's stressed out and worn out on parenting. It was super helpful for me. So if you have not seen this and it sounds like something that would be helpful for you, make sure you check that out. All right, my last 2 books here are by Ted Tripp. The first one is Shepherding a Child's Heart. I'm sure if you are a parent and you are a Christian, you have heard of this book. I went through this book with the guide, the study guide, Parent's Handbook they call it, several years ago in a group, actually when we lived in Wyoming. So that was like, it was probably 10 years ago. It was probably when Kaylee was little and I just had Kolter. So several years ago, great book. And then the next book that comes after Shepherding a Child's Heart is Instructing a Child's Heart, also by Ted and Margie Tripp. I've heard him talk about this book. I've heard him speak in person a couple times at some conferences. I've heard him say that this one is the why and what you're doing, shepherding your child's heart. You're not just wanting to change outward behavior. You want to change their heart, get to the heart of the matter, show them their sin, reveal Christ to them. That's what you're trying to do. You're shepherding their heart. This one, Instructing a Child's Heart, is the practical, the how to do what this book is talking about. So a lot more practical tips in here and how to do what we are called to do as parents to shepherd our child's hearts towards Christ. So I have not read this entire book. I've started like the first half of it, I think. I kind of am if I'm not committed, so like this year I am committed to a reading challenge. I've decided I'm doing it. I'm committed to myself, and there's really no one holding me accountable except for my husband. If I ask him to, he will do that. He's great at doing that. But I want to do it for myself, so I'm going to read the books that are on the list to read because I want to. But if they're just things that I'm interested in and then I lose interest, I'll read half a book and then put it down and not pick it up for a year. And this is one of those books. I started this book after reading several other parenting books, and by the time I got halfway through it, I was kind of just burnt out on parenting books, so I put it down and I haven't finished it. I believe my husband has read this book, and he says it's an excellent book. I'm pretty sure he read it on Kindle. We've got it on Kindle, and we both got a physical copy. So we had planned to read it together, and that just never worked out. We did something else instead. So see, here's my bookmark. I made it to chapter 7. So I would love to finish this book. I am going to be looking specifically on the chapters of having teenage children. They require just as much, if not more work than small children. And we have a teenager, and she is getting into some things that she's struggling with, and I want to be able to help her to handle them, to shepherd her heart towards Christ in those situations. So I'm brushed up on the little kids because I've been in that season for so long, but teenage years is a new thing for us. So that's my next thing I would like to be reading about, is some teenage years parenting and discipling, how to do that. So I'm pretty sure, now that I'm looking, that the Drive-By Parenting has Ted Tripp on it with Todd Friel. It is such a good, excellent resource. That is probably my number one thing that I recommend parents to listen to if they are struggling or need some advice or need some direction on how to shepherd their children, how to discipline their children, how to love their children, is Drive-By Parenting. It's just a really good resource. It's not something you have to sit down and read. It's an audio. You listen to it. They discuss things. They talk about things, which is helpful for audio learners also as a parent. If you have a hard time focusing when you're reading, being able to hear them talking about it might be helpful for you. So those are my parenting books and resources that I recommend and give people to read. So my top number 1 would be the Drive-By Parenting. My number 2 is probably this here, Don't Make Me Count to 3, and Wise Words for Moms. I have given these to people, several people, and they're so practical, but they also talk about getting to the heart of the matter rather than just disciplining for outside behavior, because outside behavior is not our goal. It's not going to change someone at all. If their heart is still sinful, God sees their heart. And so we want to be able to get to the heart of the matter and the heart of their sin. So these are my number 2. Let's see. Number 3, I would probably say, is Shepherding a Child's Heart. It's been a long time since I read it, but I do remember that it was such a good book. So that's probably my number 3 recommendation. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them down below, and make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and leave any comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.